Welcome to another episode of Casual Cinephilia, where enthusiastic amateurs talk very passionately about movies. I'm Ian.
I'm Lorian, and today we are talking about The Old Guard, which is on Netflix.
Direct to Netflix, or I guess not a direct to Netflix, made for Netflix, I guess is the proper terminology. Film with Charlize Theron, Chiwetel Ejiofor, and correct me if this is an inaccurate description, but it's John Wick with a supernatural undertone. Essentially.
I did not think of John Wick even once.
Really?
Watching this entire movie.
Really interesting, because I got huge John Wick vibes from this.
Not once.
Huh. I'm curious to hear what you think about this film, because I know that you're not the biggest fan of gun porn, action porn.
Sure. Well put.
As we've gone through our John Wick series, you voiced your, not displeasure, but your meddling feelings about just the consistent action in films.
Sure.
So I'm curious what your thought on The Old Guard is.
I did enjoy it, but it was poorly written.
Why do you say that? I'm curious.
Okay, so first off, spoilers.
Oh, yes. Spoilers
As always.
on everything that you love.
Because the concept and the story were great.
Uh-huh.
And the acting was great. And the design was great. And there were still moments where you went, nah. And if you really sit and think about it, the pacing was really bad. And then when I looked it up, the screenplay was just written by the guy who wrote the comic books, who has little to no screenwriting experience. And I feel like if you were to watch this movie as if it had comic panels around the scenes, then it might make sense, pacing-wise. But it just didn't give any time for things to develop. It was very choppy. You almost had to read the panels in there for it to work.
Interesting.
There were also things like the villain. He was so evil. He was so evil.
Played by Dudley.
He was a character, played by Harry Melling, Dudley Dursley. But he's like the perfect example of a character that could have been really interestingly written to be a villain who thinks they're a hero. He's a pharmaceutical guy who's trying to cure disease, but instead of playing him as like, listen, this is what's best for the world, I know what I'm doing, I am doing good, he sort of was played as like an evil fetishist, which I thought was kind of a missed opportunity there for some more depth to the story.
So I have a little bit of insight into that character specifically. When it was originally written, he was essentially a not amalgamation, what is it when they parody something? I guess a parody of Martin Shkreli, who is the big pharma CEO who embezzled a lot of money and was just that guy's got a big engine. Goodness gracious. Did you hear that?
I did not.
Oh, rumbled my room. Jeez. But Martin Shkreli, embezzled a lot of money and is famous for making I think it was a $15 drug, cost close to $1,500.
Right.
And so just a dirtbag human being who valued money over human life. And so I think that was just more of a parody of that character, which I do agree with you on that it was too much of a comic book villain of just like villainy, I am the bad guy kind of thing.
Right.
Which I think
they didn't
go ahead.
They didn't particularly show greed. Like, I get a greedy villain, that's fine, but they didn't really show that. He just was evil.
Right. Well, I think I think it would have been a lot better if Merrick was a shadow character where you never really saw them, and Copley, so Chiwetel Ejiofor's character, was the main antagonist.
Sure.
Because he had that genuinely thought he was doing the right thing approach. And I thought he was a great villain that kind of turned to, I guess, a protagonist at the end. Like he flipped sides, which I thought was great because I love that actor and I hate seeing him as a bad guy, and he keeps getting typecasted as villains. Because he plays such great villains in Serenity, and I guess he was a protagonist in Doctor Strange, but the twist at the end is that he's becomes, a bad guy. So it's just like I hope for him to play good characters because he's such a good actor. But I think having Merrick be the CEO Pharma guy, Merrick, be more of a shadow entity rather than an in-your-face, I'm going to stab you to see if you heal kind of character. I don't know. I agree with you on that one. I do agree with you on that one.
I think that what could have fixed this movie for me, well, first of all, is giving the man more than 3 years to learn screenwriting, since that's when the first comic was released 3 years ago. Or giving him a partner who was well-versed in writing for screen, which is a very different form of writing.
Very much so, yeah.
Or making this the first season of a series. The story they told in this movie would have been the perfect story for a full season. And it would have given them the time to develop things like the new one. I can't remember her name already. Niall?
Yeah.
She just was whipped around with her intentions and feelings with no real development,
Yeah. Well,
guys, she's alive, she doesn't want to be here, she wants to see her family, and now I'm helping. There was no real, bridge moments.
Yeah.
She was just sort of constantly yanked through that. And if that was a season, you would have had plenty of time to develop that so it felt more organic.
That's true. No, I agree with you. And I would watch a mini-series of this wholeheartedly.
I would watch a show if they picked it up now.
Yeah. I love the characters.
This is the first episode. Go.
Yeah. No, I think, to your credit, to your point, is having the original creator be the screenplay writer is that double-edged sword where you have that inexperience with screenplays, which you're right, is a completely different language. That whole thought of, a certain amount of pages is a certain amount of time, and you have to make sure that it flows. But on the opposite edge of that sword is that you kept the original intent of it, the concept. I think that's why I fell in love with this movie, is that it presented its concept and then stuck with it. Where a lot of movies, they present a concept. The one that comes to mind is Gemini Man with Will Smith.
Never saw it.
Which is actually produced by Skydance. So it's the same producers who did Old Guard, did Gemini Man. But with Gemini Man, the whole thing was about the old Will Smith, the old school with old tactics, fighting new clone Will Smith with new technology and yada, yada, yada. And it started with that concept and is very fascinating. But by the midpoint, they're fighting each other with the same tactics, the same weapons, and it's a bloody stalemate, and then they join sides, kind of thing. And so it loses that concept of new versus old. Whereas, like, the concept of the old guard is immortality, and, like, how that affects you. And from beginning to end, you see how the effects of immortality affects every single one of the characters. And it leads some to true love, it leads some to betrayal, it leads some to dehumanization with Andy, and then it's the new person coming in, with Niall coming in, first becoming an immortal, that it kind of resets everyone, and it's everyone dealing with immortality, and then later the removal of immortality.
Right.
And how they deal with it. And just the whole concept of the film is framed around people's reactions to immortality. And I don't know, I thought that from opening credit to closing credit, they never lost sight of what they were trying to say with the characters, and I appreciated that. Could it have been said more eloquently and better paced? Oh, for sure. Definitely. But I don't know. I appreciate the fact that they had the writer had what they wanted to say, and they just stuck through with it the entire time. Nothing was left by the wayside on the concept side of the film.
Sure.
So yeah. That's what I have to say about that.
I had a thought, and I don't know what it was anymore. I'm very tired.
Oh no.
What was I?
Well, it's not like you haven't only gotten 3 hours of sleep today, so.
Yeah, it's fine. What was I gonna say? I have no idea.
Well, while you're trying to remember, I just want to go out there and say Charlize Theron is a badass. Like, I don't know what it is about the way she holds herself, the way she just puts all in on the fights. In this movie, in Mad Max Fury Road, I mean, she is just a badass. And I never thought I would see, like, I never thought I would want to see more action movies with Charlize Theron, but I mean, I'm in. I'm sold. If she's in John Wick 4, I'm in. You know, like, seriously though, like, was so good in this movie. The athletics of the fight scenes I thought were really enjoyable. Though I do feel that the cinematography of the fight scenes were, though they tried to hit the John Wick level of, all right, let's put the camera here. It will do some pans, tilts, and, you know, rotations, but, like, you get to see the fight. Like, the motion is in the characters.
Sure.
They tried to do that as much as they could in this one, but there was still those jump cuts between blows and different things that make some fight scenes very confusing.
Sure.
But I felt like they did a good job of at least mapping out the choreography to make it make sense.
I think...
Go ahead.
You hit upon something for me that I didn't realize. I don't think this movie was stylized enough for its concept. John Wick, hard concept, very stylized.
Right.
And it all works together. The heightened style makes the heightened action make sense within the world. I think that they should have stylized this more strongly. And that goes with the cinematography and everything.
No, I agree. I totally agree.
Because this is a larger-than-life story. It's about immortals, as you have brought up.
Yeah.
So, if there's ever a time to go larger than life...
No, I totally agree. No, that's a solid realization that I think you're right. They did try and ground it too much in reality.
Yeah. Which I can see the pull to do that. I think that maybe that would have resolved my screenplay issues. The screenplay was written really heightened.
Yeah.
And the movie was not made in that style.
Huh. Yeah. Like, I feel if in the fight scenes
I feel like that makes sense.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, that was done.
Okay. I feel like if they would have had much more drastic angles in the fight scenes, a lot more contrast in the composition of the shots. You know, John Wick does a great job of dark foreground silhouette to lit background with the action in the foreground. You know, you're more seeing the motion rather than the actual actions. And
yeah, there's visual depth.
Yes. And I feel like a lot of the fight scenes, though they were happening in a 3-dimensional space, the actual action of the gunshot or the axe swing happens in that mid-range area where not much is happening in the background and not much is happening in the foreground. Like, the action is always in that central area. And I feel like if they would have split the characters further or had the longer shot angles, like they came close to it in the hallway fight scene when they are trying to get Andy out after she's no longer immortal. And like characters are jumping in the way of bullets and like taking bullets and all that. Like, I felt like they came close to it in that fight scene. But the scene that really stood out to me as not having that heightened sense is in the church when it was just Andy versus the SWAT people.
Yeah.
It was a cool fight scene. Like, the choreography of it was cool. But it was it was very almost by the numbers in how it was filmed. And you're right. If they would have if they would have the way
stylized it, darken the backgrounds, pull some different colors.
The way I envision it is the way that if I was in my John Wick mind filming that scene, it would have been dark interior, lit only from the stained glass, and the only way you can tell the enemies is the glow of their like walkie-talkie or flashlight like illuminating their chest, so you can see that. And then maybe a glint off of her weapon. And the rest is silhouetted in the bright contrasting reds and blues and...
Which would have been so perfectly symbolic of the story of her immortality, too.
That would have been such a great scene.
Okay, so we've solved this movie, guys. No, I really do think this explains everything, because I did enjoy this movie, but it was just, it's missing something for me.
Yeah.
The whole time. And I was, like, the visual I have to describe it is I felt like I was flying above a cloud layer, and every once in a while there'd be some really incredible mountain peak that would peek up above the clouds. But I just felt like I was missing so much under the cloud layer that just wasn't, it wasn't there to be seen.
Yeah. No, I think that's a beautiful analogy for it. Like, there was such potential with the cinematography of it, of the stylization of it, that I think it did leave the story lacking. But that being said, if they make a sequel, I'm going to watch it. I'm
still all for them doing, like, next up, season 1 of The Old Guard, picking up at the end of the movie.
Right.
If anyone can do it, it's Netflix.
Right.
I mean,
seriously.
It's all in one place. It's the perfect setup for doing that, because this really feels more like a serialized television show for me.
Yeah.
Than a movie.
No, I totally agree.
It couldn't have been cheap either.
No.
With all the actors they got?
No, they got a great cast. And the visuals for being a straight to Netflix or made for Netflix, like, this movie's gory. Like, it's not like gory,
yeah.
but like they don't shy away from bullet penetration and bullet exit wounds. Like, they flat out, like, one of the characters, Booker, literally has his chest and stomach blown out by a grenade.
Cavity.
Yeah, and
empty.
You watch it heal. Like,
yep.
You see the ooey gooey bits start to reform and his rib cage start to reform. It's like, they don't shy away from it. They show you the process of their healing.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, going back to the concept of the film, I love that it wasn't just they can't die. It's that they die, but then their body heals and brings them back.
Sure.
You know, and I loved it.
It's
I love that concept.
Deadpool.
Yeah, it really is. This is the X-Force movie we've been waiting for. I was waiting for Ryan Reynolds to just pop out with dual katanas somewhere. No, I loved the cast of this movie too. Like,
yeah,
I loved the characters, Joe and Nikki.
Mm-hmm.
They were one, badass because they were 100% in tune with each other. Every fight scene that they're in together, they never kill the person they're facing. They knock the person over and get them in a point where the other person can take them out. And so it's just like this constant ballet between the two characters of them just protecting each other and making it so the other person has a clear shot on everything, and just great. And then the scene where they're captured and it's like, what is he, your boyfriend? And he goes into that huge soliloquy about his true love for him, and like by the end they're just like I thought that was such a great moment in the movie. I don't know, I enjoyed it. The characters were fun. Even Dudley, like, I hate to be this guy, I love him, but he is such a weird looking guy. Like,
oh no.
You know, you see the curse and blessing of genes. Like, you look at the kid who, what's his name from Harry, the other dopey looking kid from Harry Potter. Neville. You look at Neville when he first gets in, you're like, oh, that poor child. And then you look at him now and you're like, oh, goddamn. Like, his genes were working for him in puberty. And then you look at Dudley and you're like, oh, the opposite happened.
I don't think he's that weird looking.
I don't know. I guess every film that I've seen of him in the last like 5 years has been like him playing weird, psychotic or mutilated characters, like in Buster Scruggs, where he has no legs or arms. It just, my mental image of him is just,
I forgot.
is just odd, you know? So
definitely.
But yeah, I'm curious where they'll take this story, though.
Yeah, it's very clearly set up for a sequel.
Yeah, with what was it? Wing?
I think, Quinn, I think.
Quinn.
It's the way I can pronounce it. It's more complexly spelled than that.
Yeah. But yeah, with her character revealing herself to Booker at the end after he's been exiled. Like, that, again, with the concept of being immortal, consistently drowning and coming back and drowning at the bottom of the ocean. Like, how does that affect you? You know? And like, that could very easily make a supervillain, you know? Like, and so it's just a very interesting concept. I always seem to be coming back to the concept. The concept of this movie is where I think it shines.
Definitely.
You know? And it carries the lack of stylization for me. Yeah.
No, like I said, I did enjoy this movie. I just couldn't figure out what was off about it, and it is this lack of stylization. Now that I get that, it's better for me, really.
You know,
Like, I like the movie better now that I understand what I don't like about it.
You know what would now? This is going to sound weird.
Great.
But I feel like this story, and of course, duh, because it's from a graphic novel, but I feel like this would be a great anime. Like, because in anime, you can have that stylization that...
I don't like anime.
I know, that's why I was hesitant to say it. But
so
I feel
don't really know how to meet you on this one.
What I see from it, mainly because Charlize Theron looks like the character the Major from Ghost in the Shell, but like that series it's a very cyberpunk feel, but it's super stylized in the Blade Runner-esque neon lights with dark alleys kind of feel, and I feel like this movie could benefit from that.
Sure.
Which, in itself, John Wick was inspired by that style as well. So I think all of this being said, it just loops back around to it needed more stylization. So, one big cyclical thought process for me.
Hooray!
But I enjoyed this movie. And I would highly suggest watching it if you haven't watched it before listening to this, which is weird if you are listening to this because we are a spoiler podcast.
Yep.
Crazy kids. Spoiling things before you're watching it. Maybe we should
spoil your dinner.
Maybe we should when quote if knock on wood if movies start coming to theaters again. Maybe we should do like a first half spoiler free review and then go into spoilers, but I don't know. Maybe. We'll think about it. We'll talk about it. Let us know if you want something.
Boring.
You're boring.
Maybe.
Yeah. Oh, let us know if that's something you want. If not, we're fine with not doing it.
We like ruining things.
Yeah. Do you have any final thoughts on the old guard?
Not really.
Fair enough.
No, I feel like I've said everything. Just it's worth watching, and it's on Netflix, so
it's easy
what do you have
to find.
To lose?
Fair enough. Should we talk about what we're going to be watching next?
Yes, we should. I think Ian wants me to say that this was my idea.
Very much so.
Keeping with our Netflix theme, I was perusing the movie section on Netflix, and it recommended to me John Mulaney and the Sack Lunch Bunch. So that's what we're going to be doing, because Netflix says it's a movie, so we can talk about it. And I want to watch it again.
So I have no idea what it is. I love John Mulaney. I've watched his previous stand-up specials, but I've
think of
never
it as
seen
like John Mulaney does an 80s after-school special.
Oh, that sounds terrible.
Yeah. I love it.
All right.
Also, really, really look forward to Jake Gyllenhaal's entrance.
Wait, Jake Gyllenhaal's in it?
So many people are in it. So many people are in it.
All right, I'm more anticipatory of it now. I love Jake Gyllenhaal.
There's a whole song just about not wanting to eat anything but noodles with butter.
Okay. All right then.
That's our next episode.
So come back next time for our when we watch John Mulaney in the Sack Lunch Bunch.
To the slow unknitting of our minds.
Hopefully one day this quarantine will be over and movies will start coming out again and we will hopefully regain some semblancy of sanity. But today is not that day, and next episode is not that episode.
Before we go, we want to thank Jenny, Jake, Pam, and Graham.
Jenny, Jake, Pam, and Graham.
Our patrons. Thank you, guys.
You guys rock. You guys are awesome. You keep this podcast rolling.
Yes.
If you want to become a patron, we suggest visiting us over at patreon.com/casualcinephilia. We have a small stuff mini podcast for our patrons over there. If not, we still will be doing this podcast for free because we love doing it. So if you want to support us, feel free. If not, no harm done. And on that, this has been another episode of Casual Cinephilia. Thank you for joining us.
Bye.
Music from filmmusic.io. Funkarama by Kevin McLeod. You can find his music at incompetech.com. Licensed under Creative Commons 4.0.